So
Can you
Jeff,
do
Today was Monty's birthday. You know what's amazing? If you look at Jay Moeller, there's a picture of Guru Nanak. He looks so much like the what's come down to us as Guru Nanak. Can anybody bring up the image of Guru Nanak on their computers?
let's see. Yeah,
Some of the
who
people.
is Guru Nanak again, Jeff?
He was the first of the Sikh perfect
Oh.
masters.
Oh, wow.
you know,
I think.
I heard it said that it's kind of it's a mix of Islam and Hindus. Is that right, or anybody know? Maybe
Yeah.
you know, VJ.
Now look
Yeah.
at now okay, now take now take that off and let's take a look at Jay Moeller.
Spitting image.
There he is, right there. He's
Oh,
back.
yeah, that's true. He does
In the
look like
flesh.
him.
Yeah. You know, don't
Jay,
think
you're gonna
that.
have to defend yourself. You'll have to look into this, Jay.
You know, some of you weren't there earlier for the birthday celebration for Monty, but I have a couple of quotes that you might find you might like from Monty. This is one is, it is important for each of us who love Baba to be with Baba. Baba is with us every second, but it becomes complete when we are with him. And this one that she used to quote this line. Imagine, you know, she's side by side with Baba her whole life. I prayed to you for strength to carry out your work. You gave me weakness, so I would depend on you.
So I guess the more weakness you have, the more dependent you are on Baba.
Yeah.
That was kind of a
Well,
joke.
there was a quote that Eric used to have right outside his room, where it goes like this. I don't know whose quote it was. It might have been Rumi, but it has more value to behold a single blemish in yourself has more value than to gaze upon the thousand lights within. To behold a single blemish in yourself, because it keeps you humble. To behold a single blemish in yourself has more value than to gaze upon the thousand lights within.
But not to get bogged down in it, from
Yeah.
what we read in Effort and
Yeah.
Grace, that we are to be our bigger selves, our larger
Yeah. But it kind of keeps you humble and on earth.
Right. Confines your ego.
What's that?
Detaching.
It confines your ego also, that you are all not also faultless.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Did
one time.
you have a special Monty story that you didn't tell earlier?
You know, she was so I mean, when you're with her, you could get so caught up and lost in that you didn't have to have much interaction, because she kind of pulled you into her stories. But one time, before I left for India, this guy who was a veterinarian gave me a stuffed animal, but this was like really a little kind of a I don't know what kind of animal you call it. It was kind of long, slender thing, but it was real fur and everything, and it had a spring in there. You could manipulate it around like the thing was real, you know. And I'd take it around Maribot and Marizon and said, "Gee, what kind of animal is that, Jeff?" And I'd let go to the spring, and the spring would go, "Wow!" You know. But Monty just loved this animal. One day she came and said, "Jeff, can I have that that thing. I mean, it was really this thing. So that was one of the things that she had. She had one of these animals, but this thing was so realistic because it was made from, you know, from the actual fur of this of a particular kind of animal. I didn't even know what kind it was.
Was it a dachshund?
A what?
A dachshund.
You're funny.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a duck.
it was not a dog.
It was a
No.
Springer Spaniel.
Yeah, it was like a, I don't know, a shrew. I don't know what I don't know my animals very well.
Sure.
There aren't enough of them around here.
Jeff used to do all sort of funny things, and I remember once he came to my house at Pune, he put empty bottle in his bag and then cracking sort of that cracking sound and the empty bottle giving the cracking sound. And
Yeah,
my
you
kid
take
says, "Oh,
you take a plastic bottle and you say, "Oh God, my neck hurts." You know, it's like I've done that with some chiropractors. Don't ever do that.
That's good.
Well, Monty had a wonderful sense of humor. That's, just watching a clip that was played
Oh yeah.
recently about her getting her driving lesson and going backwards. That was so funny. Anyway,
Yeah, she's such a great ambassador for the human side of Baba. You know, I mean, people might kind of put, you know, how after a while they start putting Jesus up higher and higher. He's out of reach. Well, she kept Baba right there where we could all relate to him, and you know, she was very good at conveying the human side of Baba, which is I find most attractive. You know, one time in Mandalay Hall, Erich said, "What does it mean to hold on to Baba's Daman?" And there were quite a few of us there in the Mandalay Hall, and people gave all sorts of different answers. Went on for about 45 minutes, and eventually Erich said, "Baba's form." You know, his personality and form. That's, you know, that's the. You'd think that, well, just focusing on a finite thing it would make you finite, but this is a finite thing that can expand your love, expand who you are. That's the what can I say? That's the magic of Baba's form. But anyone have any, Jay, how did you hear of Baba? I'm just curious. He's out there in Seattle.
Well, my friend Mark, who lives in California, Mark Choi, and Rosie,
Mark Choi.
Rosie
Yeah.
Choi. Yeah, we grew up together in Korea.
Wow.
And, but once we came to the States, we all moved here. He gave me a copy of the discourses, and I just started reading and reading and reading. And that went on for like, I think 10 years until I started going to the Baba meetings at Payam and Glenn's in San Pedro,
Yeah.
California. And that's when I started to get to see Baba's image and films and stories. And then I visited India at that point. So that's kind of, I took a different step there for the personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Nasreen, that's Payam's mom right there.
Oh yeah.
She's
It's
here on.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful house, and the atmosphere, the meetings, the small group, like 10 people meeting was so beautiful.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
there's that great voice.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no, wonderful. That and so you went. What would you say, was there a kind of one moment where you really felt that Baba was there really there
Yeah.
with you.
Actually, I could say so. I know that the discourses really was ingrained in me when I had this big fear of flying. So every time I flew, I would just read really intensely because I thought I'd be dying that day. So that kind of did that part. And then I remember the personal part really filled my heart when my first marriage came to an end and I was losing my daily contact with my son. And that big hole just suddenly, I felt like he filled it at that moment. And just seeing his image, and that was like the time where I really like fell in love with him.
Yeah. No, I know it's sometimes when we're most, there's a line from Rumi where he says the light comes in through the wound.
It must be true.
Our vulnerabilities make us vulnerable to Baba coming in. I think I bet a lot of these people can attest to that. I mean, not everybody, but we were usually, most of us were pretty down at the heart level, kind of at a great loss, and then Baba entered.
Opens up, yeah.
Must be so.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Otherwise, we don't need him. We're doing good.
When you asked for Jay's story, Jay Moeller almost gave us a story.
Yeah.
Who's that? I didn't get that earlier.
Jay is Guru Nanak there on the second row. Yeah, Jay. Let's tell how this Jay heard of Baba. Uh-oh. We can't hear you, Jay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, still can't hear
Your
you.
mic is not connected, Jay.
Oh, huh.
He's following a silent master.
While we're waiting, and while Jay kind of joins us, what about Betty? How did you hear about Baba? Or do you have to make dinner? Uh-oh, even could I have, am I the only one that's not hearing anybody?
No, she was muted.
Okay, I think I got it now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're gonna hear my dog if I.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
Oh, good. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was this extremely into the hippie thing in the 60s, first in San Francisco, and then I traveled around, hitchhiked around different places. And first place I remember hearing the name of Meher Baba was I was camping at Mount Shasta for the summer, and somebody who turned out to be a longtime friend had a "Don't Worry, Be Happy" card on the windshield of her Volkswagen microvan. And she said she had tried to see Baba in India. Later, I got a longer story about that, but he was in seclusion. So she turned back. It turned out she crossed paths with Nick and Ursula Hamilton, and they told her on a train, and they told her he was in seclusion. So she turned around. And she never became a Baba lover, but then later, I was also in the Mount Shasta area, but in the winter time. And this was amazing to me because I had a friend who was an astrologer, and he kept track of dates. And he later, I figured out through him, I was there right at the time that Baba dropped the body. And I was an Ancient One poster on the wall. And that got me thinking, he says, I was Rama, I was Krishna, I was this one, I was that one. Now I am Meher Baba. And so that got me thinking, could this really be true? This like sunk into my head, something I should really try to figure out if that could be true. And then I was camping along the river, along the Colorado River, close to the Mexico border, but on the northern side of the border. And there was a little metaphysical hippie kind of bookshop there, and they had the 3-volume paperback versions of the discourses. So I bought them one at a time. I made woven yarn belts, and I traded them. I think that's how I got those books at that bookstore. And by the time I finished reading, well, before all that, I used to read the Bhagavad Gita like over and over again. That was probably carried over from some past Indian lifetime. That really appealed to me, Bhagavad Gita. And then when I read the discourses, to me, they took the Bhagavad Gita and just took it all into the whole modern. There's just so much more details, and brought it up to so you could relate everything to the modern world. And so there wasn't any like Baba connection. It was through books and little coincidences, synchronicities. And so I finished reading those 3 volumes of the discourses. When I was finished, I said, this has to be true. And which was a little strange because I knew nothing about Baba's life except the 1-page introduction at the beginning. I had heard from somebody that Baba said not to use drugs, and I was pretty well like burned out on my drugs at that point anyways. So it wasn't hard to give up my last little bit of smoking marijuana. And then eventually I started wanting to meet other Baba lovers, and I started going up to Berkeley and going to the Baba meetings there. And then this was a strange kind of synchronicity. I was camping in Joshua Tree and going up once a month, because the once a month meeting, they guarantee that was on the schedule. There'll always be somebody that had personally met Baba would be leading the meeting at that time. You know, it was Rick Chapman or Robert Dreyfus. There was a number of Baba lovers in that area, a whole bunch really. That time, that was 1972. You know, fairly recently after Bob had dropped the body, so there was a lot of juice and energy in the Berkeley groups. But so one time I made this like 2-day hitchhiking trip from the way I went. I hitchhiked up east of the Sierras and through Yosemite Valley. This was the most pleasant way to hitchhike up to San Francisco, but it took 2 days. And then one time I went up and they didn't have somebody that met Baba on that monthly meeting. It was a psychologist woman talking about things that I could not relate to. I was just so extremely disappointed. But then it came to me that, well, the only way to really catch the good Baba meetings is I'm going to actually have to move to Berkeley. Which was, for me, that was an extreme, that was still, I think of that as the hardest thing I did in my entire life.
Yeah.
And, but it worked, you know, I pulled it off. You know, I make these yarn mandalas, and I was making them then in a very simple form, the ojos de Dios. And so I moved to Berkeley, California there was another synchronicity in there. I said, okay, Baba, you have to give me a distinct answer. Here's what I'm going to ask for. I have an old hitchhiking ticket in the Berkeley area. And I had heard of somebody who turned himself in for a hitchhiking ticket, and the judge was impressed that he turned himself in and only fined him $1. I said, okay, Baba, I'm going to turn myself in at the court in Berkeley. And I had about, at that time, a little over $60 to my name. And I said, if he only fines me $1, I'll move to Berkeley with $60, right? And so I phoned up the courts, and they had no record of and I said, you know, part of me just really didn't want to move to Berkeley. It was going to be so hard to do. So They had no record. So I said, this, they mean no record. So I called up the highway patrol who had originally given me the ticket. They had no record of any such ticket. So I was stuck. So I moved to Berkeley with $60. I found a room for rent for $50 a month. Actually in Oakland, I could walk to Berkeley from there. And arranged with the landlord to just pay he wanted first and last, but I would pay last. And I bought, for the other $10 I had, I bought yarn and sticks, and I sat on Telegraph Avenue, and that's how I ended up living in Berkeley for 3.5 years.
You have one of your God's eyes right there you can show us?
Let me see. There's a screen share. Well, I have a different background with
One you can just take off the wall?
oh, let me do it this way.
He does these very sophisticated God eyes. He's a pro of many decades.
Yeah,
I see
they're
David Defoe there.
enormously more sophisticated these days than what I was selling back then. I have a website, yarnmandalas.com. Here's a couple of my current ones. Yeah.
Oh, right behind you there.
Yeah.
You can't get them any closer, probably.
Well, I can.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Look at that. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. You could take those back on Telegraph Avenue and continue your profession. Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. Telegraph Avenue selling. The last time I was there, I was very disappointed. On Telegraph Avenue, there wasn't much handcrafted stuff being sold anymore. It was more like imported things and just all kinds of junky stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, though. Thank you. Wonderful to hear. The nice thing about Mandalay Hall is we'd sit around with Erich and Mani, and they would ask people how they came to Baba, which was always very, very fun. Some very touching stories. Yeah.
Have you told your story, how you came?
I have a few times, but yeah, I will. Let's get someone else. David Defoe, do you anything you could share about your coming to? David Defoe's in Portland.
Hi.
Yes. How many girls? How many daughters?
5.
Five daughters.
Yes.
So he's outnumbered.
I am. It was just me and the dog are the only guys, our dog, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
What about your, do you feel like sharing your story of coming to Baba or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. But, we can come back to you if you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of a long story. But I could start anyway.
Yeah.
Well, so I went to college in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan. And this is back in 1979. And let's see. I went to a workshop that someone was, I saw a poster on a bulletin board of a workshop that someone said was going to be put on that had to do with like all the religions of the world or something like that. And I thought that was very interesting. So I went there and there was a bunch of interesting films about Sufism, and gosh, there was some footage of Neem Karoli Baba. anyway, I found it really interesting. And so the person that was holding the film festival, I went to, talk to him afterwards. And, he was like a yoga instructor of some sort. And I just started going and hanging out with him and, to his classes. It was kind of, he was kind of underground. I don't know how to say it. I mean, he wasn't really like he would give classes or something like on a bulletin board or something. But he just sort of hung out in this apartment, and there was like 6 or 7 people that were, taking kind of his yoga classes. But I mean, it was really more about remembering God and breath exercises and things like that. And I think I kind of felt that this person, after a while, was kind of an advanced soul. His name was Craig Briney, and he was this, I don't know, he seemed to be able to read your thoughts and stuff like that. And so I quickly, in doing all of this yoga and prayer, and I just started doing that kind of full time. I didn't stop going to my classes, and I just got very obsessed that was really the only thing that I was interested in. And so I actually dropped out of the university, and this guy, Craig, he was really kind of radical. He suggested that there was a way to only live for God, and he suggested that we just go, hitchhiking and traveling and without any money, and see whether God would take care of us. Anyway, I think I'm just trying to think about this off the top of my head. I think my story's kind of going in different directions here, though. So I dropped out of college and kept hanging out with this person. He was actually the person who told me about Mayor Baba. He gave me a book about Baba, the book that Phyllis Frederick put together. What was it called?
The Path of Love.
The Path of Love. Yes, that's it. Yes. And he told me that Mayor Baba was the avatar and that I should read this book. And so that's when I first heard about Baba, was from this person. And I immediately read the book, and I felt that it was true. It just had the stamp of truth, like this person, Mayor Baba, he really knew what he was talking about. But I wouldn't have called myself a Baba lover at that point. I was just a believer in all of the different paths. And I spent the next 4 years just traveling around the country, visiting different spiritual organizations and ashrams. And I think I met my first Baba lovers a couple years after that, maybe in LA, I think it was. I remember Phyllis Frederick took me out to breakfast. But over time, every time I would think of Baba, hear anything about Baba, it would just always have like the ring of truth. And I think I would read something of Baba's. It would almost be like the letters were floating above the page. And so over time, I remember that when I would meet Baba lovers occasionally, I would travel all over the country and I would visit these, different places. I would go stay with the Sikhs or just any group, the Hare Krishnas, they were fun, dancing and getting up early. So at one point, to get to the point where I started calling myself a Baba lover, I was in Austin, Texas, and I was, during this time, I kind of just, I was like a full-time meditator, and I mean, that just seems like what I did all day. And I would occasionally get an odd job to make a little money, and I would just travel a lot. And but anyway, so this story probably happens now in about 1982 or something like that. I was in this sense of meditation in Austin, Texas, and I came into this experience where I could just see all of the energy all around me. It almost looked like the prana or whatever, it just looked like a snowstorm. And I just had this feeling that there was this incredible amount of power available to me. But this intensity. And then after a few days, maybe a week, that went away. And I missed it incredibly. I mean, this feeling was like you could see like these waves of energy coming out of my hands and stuff. And so when that went away, I really wanted that experience back. And it just wouldn't really come easily. And about the same time, I started experiencing these like pains on my body that felt like knives being put in me. And I don't know, it just seemed like it was something to do with, you know, something invisible. And I know this story sounds strange, but I'm just telling you how I experienced it. So anyway, I was in Florida. Like I said, I was often moving. And I decided it was just time to go visit my mother, who was in Michigan. Anyway, I hitchhiked north out of Miami, and someone actually gave me a ride up. They were going up I-95 and dropped me off. And they were going in, as they were driving up there, I remembered that this person who told me about Baba, Craig Briney, told me that there is the Baba Center in Myrtle Beach. And he told me if I ever went to the Baba Center in Myrtle Beach, he said that I should go there on Sunday because Baba's house would be open. So as I'm being driven up I-95 up the East Coast, I realize it's Saturday night and I'm on I-95 and I'm near the Baba Center. And so I asked him to let me off in Florence. So the next morning, Sunday morning, I get up and try to hitchhike over to Myrtle Beach, and no one will pick me up. I don't know why, you know, because usually I got rides really quick. And so anyway, I just go back into the woods and meditate the whole day. That's what I did back then. And the next morning, I just decide, okay, I'm not supposed to go to Myrtle Beach, to Baba Center, because no one would pick me up the day before, and I start hitchhiking north. And the first person that picks me up, you know, says they're going to Myrtle Beach, but I guess by the next exit. And I said, no, I'm not going to Myrtle Beach. And then the next person picks me up, they're going to Myrtle Beach. Anyway, finally, this next person picks me up, and they're also going to Myrtle Beach. And I think, okay, 3 times hitchhiking, if someone says they're going to the same place, it's probably where I'm supposed to go. And so I go head to Myrtle Beach, and I finally, the next day, make it to Baba Center. And I'd never been there before, and I just sort of showed up at the gate. And the person at the gate, I remember telling me that I had to meet Kitty before going into the center, but Kitty was ill. And so they just brought me onto the center to get a tour. And I actually didn't have any cash on me at all. And they told me that I couldn't stay on the center. And, you know, if I didn't have, I mean, I think it was $4 a night or something, that I didn't have $4. But I got a tour of the center. And anyway, it was very lovely. And then I was brought to the lagoon cabin. And, you know, I was left in the lagoon cabin. And there was two beautiful pictures of Baba's books. One was the one that, you know, was published, and one was more of just a book of personal photographs. And I start looking through those pictures, and I just wanted in looking at the pictures, I felt that Baba wanted me to ask him a question. And so I can't think of any question for Baba. And so then I say to Baba, Baba, I don't know what to ask you. Why don't you just tell me what you want? And so as soon as I said that, it seemed like the whole lagoon, now I was looking forward towards Baba's chair, but somehow I could see in back of me, and the back of the lagoon cabin just disappeared into this blackness. And Baba walked out of the blackness, you know, into the lagoon cabin, and walked up in back of me and just gave me this big embrace. And all those pains that I'd been experiencing disappeared, but in his embrace somehow, but also, I don't know, just time stopped. And when I walked out of there, I was a Baba lover, because I knew Baba was God.
Beautiful. How old was Baba in this form?
Oh, a young Baba.
Uh-huh.
Maybe Portofino Baba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very thin, very fast. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah, you might, you know, I think that we have, you know, all been with Baba, you know, in the past, either 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, Jake, maybe 1960s, you know, that we've been with Baba. It's not like, you know, so we recognize him again.
You know,
But
when I
that,
first
and the
went to-
mandalas indicated the same thing.
Yeah. Well, when I first went to India, I'll just tell you, the minute I landed there, I thought, this is the most familiar place I'd ever seen,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, I see Jake is, he's normally got to be, you know, studying for his students, his physics students, but hey.
Wonderful to see you, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, you got any, we haven't seen you in a while. You got any of your, any questions or any things that you're working on with Baba that come to you?
Yeah. One I want to say is it's funny you say that I was with, you know, in jest, you say I was with Baba in the 60s, but I will say that of all the pictures of Baba, it's Baba in that time frame of the 60s that I find most familiar to me, you know. So there very well could be truth to your jest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I do have just a one little quote here to read, very short, that I really enjoy, and I feel like I enjoy it because it is something I'm working towards with Baba, and you know, growing more into what it really means here. So give me 1 second. I lost my bookmark along the way. Here it is. Okay. This is from the selfishness discourse towards the end. And says, divinity is not devoid of humanity. Spirituality must make man more human. It is a positive attitude of releasing all that is good, noble, and beautiful in man. It also contributes to all that is gracious and lovely in the environment. And I was just thinking, for me, in just reading that and reflecting, like I just feel how beautiful that statement is, and I can feel my own beauty in that statement as being human, which is something that I've struggled with in my life, of accepting my humanness. You know, I have spent much of my life trying not to be trying not to be human. But here, you know, being human and spirituality go hand in hand. I just find that so beautiful,
Yeah.
so encompassing, so full. What a lovely experience.
Yeah, when I mean when I went there to India, for the first time I thought that the Mandali, who had been with Baba their whole lives, I thought they'd be very spiritual giants. But I was so relieved to find they were like my favorite aunts and uncles. That the humanness of them, the deeply humanness of them, I saw that and I said, well, that's reachable, that's doable. I mean, I have to work at it, but it wasn't like I thought I might have to reach some great spiritual height to reach Baba. And here, this is what the way they made them. We could all understand them. You know, I mean, they weren't unknown. They were just what can I say? They had it in spades. What we all know we might have in diamonds and clubs.
Yeah.
And well, this reminds me of a story when that Lynn Ott, you know, he told me when Lynn Ott was a very inspired intellect. You know, he read God Speaks and all of Baba's teachings, and he was very fired up on that level. He wasn't intellectual, but as much as an inspired thinker. So he had Baba as God. And so when he went there to see Baba in 1966, he hadn't thought about it real, you know, until he started down the road, the approach road to Mirazad. And he started to panic because he was soon going to meet God himself. And he had this impulse just to fling the door open in the car and just run off into the fields. But he managed to control that impulse, and he got there to Mirzad, and eventually he was shown in to Mandalay Hall, and Bob was sitting on his chair there, and he said Bob was just a little man, you know. I mean, Lynn was a big guy. Bob was quite little, and the first thing that Baba said, with Erich interpreting, was, "I am more human than you are." And that was so disarming. I mean, he just, because it was like he was going to meet the Wizard of Oz and found out that, you know, it's all, we all know, you know, that it's the best part of ourself that Baba exemplifies, you know.
I so could feel that when you said that.
Yeah.
Baba is the best part of ourself.
Yeah.
I was very happy to find this great picture of Lynn the other day on the internet.
Oh, wow. He's sitting in his studio.
Actually, I think it's outside.
Or outside. Look at Lynn Ott there. Oh, beautiful.
I used to spend a lot of time listening to Lynn Ott. He was by far people who spent time with Baba that I spent the most time with. He was my great connection in that way. Yeah.
Lynn Ott, who met Baba in 1966.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's Betty here. I'm listening while I'm cooking, and I was listening to David's story. Hi, David.
Yeah.
There was part of that. This is Scott, by the way, Renee Busanish's brother.
Uh-huh.
He's listening too.
Oh, good.
Hi, Betty.
Hi. I was just waiting with bated breath for you to talk about your experience on the way to the center, and I don't think I heard it. Did you tell that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
Well, Betty, I could tell you again.
Please, that was what I was getting at. Please, yeah.
Well, I'll add one more detail for the other people so that they don't fall asleep. So Betty, the part where I first went to the center. So I was on my way to the center. I was hitchhiking, and I was 21 years old, I think, at this point. And I had been, picked up hitchhiking near Florence. And as I was driving into Myrtle Beach, being driven into Myrtle Beach by these two young girls, they were going, I think, for spring break or something at Myrtle Beach. And I began to sort of nod off in the back seat. And this is on the drive towards Myrtle Beach. And as we came to near Conway, South Carolina, I was sort of half dozing, but I all of a sudden became totally awake because I was shaken awake by this wall of light that looked like it was stretching all the way into the sky. And then we kind of drove into it like this giant bubble into the Myrtle Beach area. And it just felt incredible inside this bubble. And the earlier part of the story, Betty, is that at this point, I'd been doing like different types of yogas and meditation for like 10 hours a day. And I think I was very sensitive to things like that. Anyway, I finally make myself to the center and I get a tour of the center, and I'm only there a couple hours. And there's this person who gives me a tour. I don't even remember who he is. I wish I would remember who it was that gave me the tour. He showed me the barn and everything. And as he was showing me the lagoon cabin, I told him about seeing this wall of light up to the sky. And he goes, "Where did that happen?" And I said, right near the city limits of Conway, I told this person. And he said, "It's the SMR." And I said, "The SMR?" I said, "What's the SMR?" And he says, "It's the 17-mile radius." And he said, "Baba said there's the 17-mile radius of power around the center." And he got out a map and he measured where I said it was. And he said, "Look, it's 17 miles. Anyway, after that, Betty, I'm brought into Baba's lagoon cabin. And I'm looking at pictures. And Baba says to me, I hear Baba feel him inwardly say to me that he wants me to ask him a question. And I can't think of any question to ask him. So I just say, "Baba, just tell me anything you want." And then Baba walks into the lagoon cabin and embraces me. He walks in from and back in this beam of light coming out of the darkness. And I mean, it was so real. I mean, he embraced me from the back and I could feel his hands on my chest from and back. Wow. And I just, was out of it. That's what real love felt like. And then after a bit, I walked out of the lagoon cabin. The fellow asked me, "Hey, how was that?" And I said, "Oh, that was just fine." I didn't tell him about it, but I've been telling him the story for like 10 years, actually. One thing I just want to say about this is in all those years of doing yoga, there's a certain energy that was full of power. But Baba, in that embrace, made me realize that the highest truth is not this feeling of getting like some sort of psychic power. It was all about love. It was about giving power away. And I felt all that just in that embrace.
Beautiful.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
You're
He
welcome.
went
That
in as a he went in as slightly agnostic and came out a Baba lover.
Okay,
Yeah.
back to dinner.
Hey,
Just leave it on.
so this is Renee's brother, huh?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
known,
Younger.
what's that?
Yeah.
I've
Younger.
known Renee for ages, you know, all the way back to early 70s. And now she lives in Asheville, and she comes down to the center a lot. Wonderful to meet you. And your name is what?
Scott.
What is that?
Scott.
Oh, Scott. Okay. Scott Busanich. Or no, it's not Scott Busanich. It's
Beamer's the last name.
Beamers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Do you live in Scotts Mills, or are you just visiting?
I live in Scotts Mills.
He's
Yeah,
been
okay.
living here for a couple of years now.
Okay.
He's a great roommate.
Yeah.
And Renee put us together.
But you probably grew up in California, did you?
No, I grew up in Oregon all my
Oregon.
life.
Okay. Okay. Good.
He says that their dad called us the Alibabas.
Yeah. A lot of parents did that same thing. We were the Alibabas. So, wow.
Affectionately, his dad was a devout Catholic, but he had that was all.
Yeah, I got a nice, I got a nice quote. This is one from Rumi. Rumi has just kind of such a colorful way of saying things, but here he says, "This love sacrifices all souls, however wise, however awakened, cuts off their heads without a sword, hangs them without a scaffold. We are like the night, earth's shadow. He is the sun. He splits open our night with a sword soaked in dawn."
Oh my goodness.
He splits open our night with a sword soaked in dawn. I like that image. Hey, Ganesh was here, but he must have slipped out somewhere. Jake, anything else rattling around in there?
Perhaps Ganesh's night has been split open by a sword of dawn.
Yeah.
We're going to dinner. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Betty. Yeah. We got Dinku there and Sham. And Marge, are you there? Haven't seen Marge in ages. I mean, I see her nameplate, but yeah. I have something I wrote about a little exchange I had with Mara, but I'm going to see if anyone else has anything anything they feel like sharing. Dinku, you have something. Oh, can't hear you.
No, I'm just enjoying listening to you all.
Yeah. Good. And let's see. Marinaz, she's probably having dinner now. Oh.
Lunch only, breakfast.
Oh. Sham is, yeah, you guys are having breakfast. Maybe I'll read this. Well, let me just see. What about Priya? How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you.
What happens, those in India have a hard time having both the audio and the video at the same time. You know, that you have to have a special kind of Wi-Fi setup, I think. Oh, there's Priya.
Yes.
Priya,
Baba.
are you still in Goa?
Yes, very much in Goa.
I mean, do you live there or you're just
I
taking
moved here 6 months ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
It was just one of those things, you know. I said to Baba, bring me closer to you. I was struggling a lot in Delhi
Yeah.
and just happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
10
Goa is
days.
probably a much quieter, more relaxed life than a big city.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in New York before you know, before I came down, New York City, and came down here, and the South is very slowed down by comparison.
Mm.
Yeah. People have time for a little more time for each other. So I'll let me just see. This is like a really brief exchange that I had with Mara. Yikes! Are you folks there?
Yes. Yes, Jeff.
Okay. That's well. I said I call this love is something different. This is. I found that I absorbed in a very natural way many profound truths in being with the Mandali. Here is one example. One deep insight came in a way that on the surface wouldn't be obvious at all. And this happened one day at Merazad with Baba's beloved Mera. It was back in the early 1970s when I was young and immature in Baba. Mera was standing on the porch of the main house saying goodbye to a young woman whose pilgrimage had come to an end. She was on her way back to the West. I was there just to say goodbye for the day before going back to Mehrabad. Mera lovingly encouraged the young woman to take Baba with her, not to worry, that Baba would take care of her. And at one point, she surprised me saying, "Sometimes we feel empty and depressed, but I know Baba wants us to be cheerful, so I make efforts to be cheerful." This made a profound impression on me. I thought to myself, she is the beloved of the beloved, and for decades she has been next to the source of all love, and yet she doesn't always experience a joyous heart full of Baba's love. I concluded, then love must be something different from what I had thought. Up to that point, I took the feeling of Baba's love in my heart as a sign that I was on the right track. Baba was with me. And when I would lose that feeling, I would agonize over what I must have done wrong. I struggled to get the feeling back, desperately. But after this small exchange with Mera, I rarely ever worried again about how I was feeling. I never felt bad if I experienced emptiness or sunk into a low mood. I was able to see after that love was on a different track. It came from a different dimension within me. I would notice, for example, in times when I felt depressed or sad, my mood never prevented me from responding to a situation with love. Love was not dependent upon my mood or the state of my feelings, nor did they take away from my love. Love was independent. And after that, I didn't take it personally when I wasn't experiencing Baba's love in my heart. I would leave that up to his timing, and I would be deeply grateful when it happened. Baba once said, feelings and emotions are the creation of energy and mind. Love is the creation of the soul. I'll say that again. Feelings and emotions are the creation of energy and mind. Love is the creation of the soul. Over time, I came to experience my consciousness, to use a metaphor, as the Earth's atmosphere, and moods and emotional states are like weather systems passing through it. If I identified with a raging storm in the atmosphere, I would be buffeted around by winds. But if I didn't identify with the storm, it would pass through me much more quickly, and I would not be pulled in. Years later, I began to see moods and emotional states like the seasons. It is not possible to stay in the springtime of moods like many spiritual groups advocate. Spring has to give way to summer, where things heat up and a listlessness sets in. Then autumn comes and the natural world begins to shut down. The temperatures cool in a way that's invigorating. But that doesn't last. Winter comes and everything dies back. There can be a feeling of emptiness and nature appears lifeless. These natural cycles are like the feelings and emotions moving naturally through us. And yet all the time, Baba's love is behind the cycle of these emotional seasons, untouched, independent, ever accessible to us. Like Mara's expansive, gentle, and ever embracing love, which she radiated so beautifully, even though she herself might be feeling sad and weary. How amazing that because of such a seemingly minor incident with only a few words spoken, such a profound truth about moods and feelings was communicated, which has made such a difference in my life. But I know well that Baba's close mandali are completely linked to the divine, and so many deep truths naturally just flowed from them, whether they were aware of it or not. Later, I read where Baba had said to Arnavas Dadachanji, who was complaining to him that she wasn't feeling him. And Baba said, I never said to feel me, I said to love me. So true. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Jeff.
uh-huh.
I love the comparison to the seasons.
Yeah.
Wonderful,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that I don't know if that made was that clear?
That was
Yeah.
wonderful, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so I oddly
Did
enough, you
you
stay in a
ever
pretty good mood if you don't take mood so personally. That's what I've found. Yeah.
I also liked your weather metaphor,
Yeah.
in which the weather blows through if you don't attach yourself to it.
Yeah. I'm reminded a quote from Einstein where he says, no problem can be solved with the same consciousness that went into creating it. So it's moving into the wider consciousness in order to tackle something. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious, Jeff, did you ever talk with Mara about that incident or awareness that you had?
No, I didn't. And, you know, things like that would happen. And I'm sure that would kind of casually, this just came out naturally out of her. But because she's linked with Baba and everything, these things have the divine, what can I say, divine emanation behind it. So just a casual remark like that would go in very deep. Because I thought, you know,
Yeah,
Mara
beautiful.
feeling depressed and empty and depressed, how could that be? But feelings are different from love.
Yeah, that makes
I mean, of course, we like to have nice, warm feelings, but love, I mean, for example, you and I could be very depressed and, you know, really down and out. But if somebody got in an accident right outside your house, we'd run out there and try to help them and get them to the hospital. So our response of love wasn't dependent upon our moods. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah. You know, I liked what you said about, you know, Mara being so connected to Baba that something so simple as a, you know, side comment that you overheard goes so deep. It really makes me reinforces in me the sense that you know, when you're that connected to Baba and the divine, everything you do is in service. You know, even a simple comment like that, you know, has deep and profound impact on someone like you, and continues to reverberate far into the future here then with all of us. It's just, it's kind of just so beautiful how that, how that energy and that love and service continues to flow. I mean, it's like, yeah, I think it's very similar to Baba's love, how Baba's love and the, you know, the work that he's done continues to unfold and flow and move and carry forward from its original, you know, I don't know, from original, whatever original actions he may have taken from whenever long ago. And even at that, you know, as I'm saying that, I don't even think that is really accurate, because I think even right now, Baba's love is still actively flowing. It's not like it has flowed once and continues to flow. It's ever emanating, it's ever flowing, it's ever here. So
yeah, because at any time, because we're kind of giving our lives to Baba, Baba can eclipse us in a moment, and we can say, we ourselves can say something casual that we didn't realize what a significance it might have had for someone else. You know, some teacher in, you know, growing up, some teacher might have said something to you that, you know, just a kind of remark, but it affirmed maybe your talent or your ability or your, you know, your exceptionalness, and yet the teacher might not ever remember having made that remark, but it's where it was said from. Sometimes I bring my problems to Erich, you know, was especially back in the 70s, and I was amazed I could get the whole problem out in a few sentences, because he was a perfect listener. But then sometimes he'd go, you know, and I'd kind of know, like, hey, that's not important, or that's not really, I mean, he didn't even say anything. He just kind of, you know, he would just kind of like, no, basically no big deal. And he kind of, I would be like it would speak volumes, you know.
well, how wonderful of it for you to be able to hear that and not take that as a rejection or, you know, put yourself down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be able to hear that in full relationship with it.
Yeah.
Oh. Jeff, I have a question, if I may ask.
Yeah.
It's more coming from a place of curiosity. Since you had such a beautiful relationship with Erich, and now that he's not, you know, among us, at least in physical form that we know of, do you sometimes still talk to him? Do you like invoke his presence in some way?
Well, you know, sometimes he does appear to me in my dreams. You know, and there he is. I mean, it's not just a dream, but I mean, it's like it's a happening. But you know, I feel the Mandali were outside of me in the early years, and that when they passed on, they kind of went inside of me. Baba filled up all the spaces that they occupied in my early life with Baba, and the Mandali kind of went inside. So they're there supporting all of us, you know, and they really are. They're there supporting us in all of our efforts to draw closer to Baba, I feel.
Is that
you know, it doesn't matter whether you met them, but you can, you know, did you see Oh, no, I guess you didn't see the film of Mani today.
No.
But anyway, if you see some of those videos, the idea, the feeling you get about them is accurate. You know, they're very, and you kind of know, you kind of get to know them. And then they kind of become a part of you. They're, yeah.
Actually,
Thank you.
Jeff, we see all the mandali in you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just relaying stuff on, you know, like you. I mean, I just like Jake and some of these young people, especially, they're picking up everything they can, and that's what we did. We went around with our begging bowls to, you know, get every little scrap of what it was like to be with Baba, what he was like, how he liked us to be, you know. So I'm just passing that on. I had my I had my awareness. I had my my radar picking it up. But it's like it, yeah. You know what's interesting is, I would say many of us, but myself, and then you know, David, the spiritual side. There's this whole spiritual thing, and then there's the real thing. By turning to Baba, Baba is the real. Any kind of shape or form, his name, his figure, his movies, what he writes about, that we're linking into the real. And that real is more, where it's at than the spiritual. Even though the spiritual is like very attractive and everything, but eventually we come back, we come to the real. That's the shortcut. I mean, I once, you know, I've said this before to Erich. I said, you know, I have a feeling that this is back in the 70s. I said, I have a feeling that what we're doing, we've divided the lower self into a lower and a higher. And the lower part of the lower self is trying to realize the higher side of the lower self. And Erich affirmed that, meaning the higher side of the lower self is the entire spiritual path. The higher self is beyond. And Bob is the doorway. Bob is the doorway to the higher self. And spirituality is the doorway to the higher self, the higher side of the lower self. I mean, I don't know if that makes any sense.
So Jeff, are you talking about the first, second, and third planes when you're talking? Are you talking about getting to the first plane from the gross self? Is
all the way up to the sixth plane. That's all that's all still in the world of illusion. Adi used to say, this is something Adi Keirani would say, the difference between someone on the gross plane and someone on the sixth plane is someone on the gross plane is drowning in 6,000 feet of water. Someone on the sixth plane is drowning in 7 inches of water, 6 inches of water.
So we were talking in another group about the lower and higher self and planes. The issue, we were reading God Speaks, and the issue was when you're in the gross body, when you've reached to the subtle plane, so the second plane, do you still have access to the senses of the gross plane, like the 5 senses? There was a big discussion about that.
Yeah.
In other words, how gross are you as you move up? They didn't put it quite like that.
But yeah. Some of the 5 senses start to drop out. But Adi said this. He used to say this back in the 70s. If you're a Baba lover and you get up on the plains, Baba has to bring you down, and bringing you down causes great suffering. It's incredible suffering to go from that great expansiveness down to the physical form again. But he said it's best with Baba to be on the gross plane. That's what Adi that's what Adi said. And I've known some Baba people who got up on the, on a more rarefied state, and Baba has brought them down over the years, and is very painful, because once you kind of get opened, you get into that expansiveness, it's it's like going, have you ever dived into the ocean? If you go down, into a swimming pool, if you go down too far, things get more and more dense. So what I gathered from the Mandali is to be on the gross plane and be loving is a great place to be.
Is this the idea of not becoming the idea of it being better to be on the gross plane, about helping us not become enchanted or like distracted by the allures of the planes? And not that I'm making any claims to be on the plane at all, but I'm just curious if that's part of why it's better to be on the gross plane.
Well, Baba has said that that how long it takes to get to know this world, the gross world. All the different aspects of life, lifetimes and lifetimes we spent in the gross world. Baba says the subtle world is even vaster than this world. So it's endless, so why go there when ultimately, well, here's a figure that Erwin Luck told me that Baba had given. Is, say, suppose you have to take down a tree, a tall tree. One way is you go up to and take the top 15 feet, then you go down another 15 feet, you go down another feet until you get to the base. That's like going through the plains. But Baba's method is he introduces termites into the tree that just eats it all out, hollows it all out. So it's really only held up by bark. To all intents and purposes, it's still in the gross plane. But all the master has to do is all Bob has to do is just kick it over. So basically, it's a different way. One is realizing your spiritual potential. The other one is being hollowed out. Effacement. That was the metaphor that Erwin said that Baba gave. It's about being hollowed out rather than realizing your spiritual potential, so to speak, realizing the higher planes.
But that's not necessarily the same as getting glimpses, right? Because you can be on the gross plane and get glimpses of other planes, like little instances. Yeah,
I would say, but getting little glimpses of Baba or thinking of him, and that's even greater than all of that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even looking at a photograph of Baba may be a much profounder experience than we realize. We're looking away from the world of illusion and seeing the form of God, of the real. What do I know? But this is what I gathered.
Yeah, there's a story in Charles's book, "The Day Becomes the Answer," about some short stories of his life with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And one of them is about, one of them ends with Elizabeth talking about how important it is. Just a single glimpse of Baba is everything. Just a glimpse of Baba. That in itself is everything. Let go of everything else, spending intimate time with him, spending, being embraced by him. Just a single glimpse is everything. And that idea I find so profound, so beautiful.
Yeah. And all those instances where we feel Baba eclipsing us with his love are all real. I mean, they're the most real thing we can experience here in this life. Or trying to be loving, all of those things. Wait, let me stop for a moment. Shams, you had a question, did you? Or something to say? Oh, I thought I saw his hand up. Well, I mean, I did I say this? Wow, I can't remember whether I said this earlier, but did I mention? God, I can't remember. But anyway, we were in Mandalay Hall one time, and we were all sitting around, and Eric said, what does it mean to hold on to Baba's Daman? Did I mention that?
Not tonight, for
Oh.
sure.
I've been on Zooming today. But so he said, what does it mean to hold on to Baba's Daman? And we were all there, probably 25 of us or so. And people gave answers, maybe went on for a half hour or something. And in the end, Baba said, holding on to Baba's Daman means holding on to his form, holding on to his personality in his form. You'd think that even though Baba said, I'm not this form, but focusing on that form does magical things. There was a perfect master, Ramakrishna, back in the latter part of the 1800s. And he was asked, what is the highest form of love? This is a perfect master is being asked. And he gave this an explanation. And it was that Krishna grew up in Vrindavan, even though he was really the heir to the throne. His uncle was killing all the children of his parents, and so what they did is when he was born, there was a stillborn child that was born in this village, and the stillborn was shown to the uncle, so he thought that it was safe, but that meant that Krishna had to grow up as a cowherd in Vrindavan. And so he grew up with all the gopis, and they had a great life, and he was just, they loved and adored him. And then when he was 16, I think, I don't know, Jasima would know, he killed his uncle. He had to fight his uncle. He killed him, and he became king at age 16. But he left, and they were left bereft, the gopis. But one day, Krishna sent Udwara. Was there a disciple? Anyway, he sent one of his disciples to the gopis. And when he came, I pictured he came down the hill. All the gopis ran to him and said, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? And his disciples say, well, Krishna is the Lord of creation. He's everywhere. Oh, don't tell us that. Why don't you bring Krishna? They wanted him in form. That is, Ramakrishna said, that's the highest form of love. And he gave another figure at the same time that he gave another figure where Hanuman, when he was first approaching Ram, and Ram could see him in a distance, and Ram was with some of his disciples, his mandali or whatever, and he said, "That see that man that's coming, that man takes Vishnu as his god. So I'm going to have to change into Vishnu for him, because that's how he sees God." So right in front of his disciples, he changed in the form of Vishnu, and when Hanuman came, he found his Vishnu there. He found so he even forced Ram to fit his image of what God was. But that Ramakrishna said that's the highest form of love. That you're so attached to the form of God that's dearest to your heart that even the God man had to change form there. I mean, later he weaned him off of that and he became devoted to Ram. But so there's a lot about the form.
So just so I'm clear, I mean, I think I understood what you said, but you're saying the highest form of love is the manifestation of God in human form.
Yeah.
Okay.
The devotion to that form.
Devotion to that form is the highest form of love.
Yeah. That's what Ramakrishna said, and really that's what Erich was saying. They could have I mean, Adi said, I remember back in the 70s that if he hadn't gotten into Baba, he would have been a great saint with a large following. But he said, but instead I've had to suffer humiliation, frustration, and exhaustion day in and day out with Baba. So he gave up that high state just to serve Baba the man in his manifestation. Yeah. So yeah, we are so blessed that everything is simplified to Baba's life and Baba's personality and Baba's form and Baba's name.
But Jeff, it sounds to me like a contradiction, or to say that the form is important when he's also says that this physical form is part of Maya. So there's like a anyway. Yeah. So it's like a contradiction. So how do you integrate that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that form is a doorway to the infinite. You have to kind of exit through something. And it's the doorway. Now, Baba's form is different from our forms in the sense that Baba has infinite knowledge, power, and bliss and light. His form is actually veiling the divine. And in other words, if Baba's form didn't veil his infinite light, we would be blinded. Mm-hmm. If his form didn't hide it through its helplessness, didn't hide his infinite power, we'd be overpowered. If his humanness didn't hide his infinite knowledge, we would feel way too self-conscious around Baba, because he'd just know us too much. And if Baba didn't hide his bliss in suffering, we'd be all blissed out. So his form is different from, so that it's devoting ourselves to his form is different from devoting it to Guru Nanak over there, you know. Now, over to Jay Muller. I mean, but we do know even when we love somebody, how that expands our life. So
Maybe that's what he meant when he said he was the key. That
the what?
the key, that Baba is the key who turns, so that if you are focused on the form, which is the veiled form of divinity, that is the key through which you get. I mean, you just said that in a different way, but it just hit me about the metaphor of the key, how that might. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's the doorway or he's the key, whatever. I mean, I'm saying this, don't take it as the truth, you know, but I mean, but I think that we all kind of find that to be true, that his form, his personality. The beautiful thing is that Baba's person, even though his form is gone, his personality is always here. You know, so he's still playing his humor and tricks with us, and it gives us his companionship. It's just, and then in the case of like David, Baba can actually suddenly take form, you know, where you can actually feel that. I know a lot of people have actually, they've seen Baba and they've actually felt him in form. This is after he dropped his body.
Well, maybe that's why Mani wrote that song, Open Up the Door, because, I mean, I'm just looking at the words. Your face I adore. I don't seek the sword, just drown me in the core to your kingly store. My rosary has more. I kneel upon the floor to be with you evermore. And then all of it about open up the door, Lord. Knocking at the door, open up the door.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the doorway. Yeah. But anybody else have anything to say? I'm just kind of blabbing away here.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Baba says that he's above all promises. But he said something like that, right? I mean, I've heard it more in the context of him breaking his silence.
Yeah.
But I believe that it was something where you said that he's above and beyond all the promises.
Yeah,
and I'm just wondering what he really meant by that. I mean, not just in the context of silence, because we as humans put so much stress on, you know, impeccability of words, right?
Yeah.
And in honoring our words.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Baba has one promise. And all the other promises and broken promises are under the promise that he is going to make you realize your higher self. That promise is guaranteed. But he may have to break some promises in order to break your heart, so that you open up to the divinity that's in you. But he's, you know, he kept saying, I'm going to break my silence in such and such a time, and he wouldn't do it, you know. But you know that last film of Baba, have you seen that one of the last films of Baba, where it says, you know, you go in for an operation and the doctor says you'll be all right after a week, even though he knows it's going to take you a month to recover. And so it's all brought, you're kind of tricked a little bit, but it's in your best interests. I have a quote. I don't know if I can find it. Well, you guys, dang it, I just.
What was it about, Jeff?
Oh, it's about Baba's, let me see if I can find it here.
Where's Alan when you really need him?
I'm going to try. I'm going to just see if I find this quickly. I don't want to take up a lot of time here. Ah. Shoot.
Jeff, while you're looking that up,
Yeah.
I'm reminded when you were talking about Baba's form, about how, of course, the story of Krishna and Arjuna, of course, Krishna shows Arjuna his real form and, all of the universes. And he says, I've become death, the destroyer of worlds. Krishna says to Arjuna, this great warrior, goes, oh my God, this is too much. Just bring back your sweet form.
Yeah. Yeah, you think that would, uh-oh. Yikes. One second here. Boy, anyway, I'm going to forget about that. I couldn't find it. But Baba said, someone complained about Baba breaking his, changing his plans. And Baba says, basically, I wish I could remember the exact, I never, let's see, I never changed plans. The whole plan is to make you realize that there is no plan, something like that. I wish I could get the quote is very good.
Yes, you had shared this once. The only plan is that there is no plan.
Yeah. It's all, just becoming love. It's not a plan. You just realize the love that you are. But I wonder, we got Diane and Terry here. I mean, what you got any, did you have a meeting tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a standing
Yeah.
Tuesday. So
Zoom.
we are going to try and lobby you to have another night.
Yeah.
My defense is, or my argument, persuasive argument, is that you have 2 sessions on Sunday and then to just have another one 48 hours and then not have any Jeff Wolverton for another 5 days. The math doesn't work.
Yeah. I know that's my job. I mean, I have to go to work, so that's the time slot.
I know, but my work gets in my way all the time.
Yeah, work it really gets in the way of realization. No. And anyone else have any anything to mention? I mean, these are all things that
I love the PJs.
that came up in Mandalay Hall. I mean, just amazing. Erich was so good about letting people ask anything, or Adi. Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I have a question like like decisions, when we take decisions. So I take a decision, but how to be sure that is right and that is approved by Baba? Like what happens, I take a decision and later on I feel, okay, I should have done the other way.
Yeah.
And it happens quite. So how we should approach that?
Yeah. That is a whole spiritual journey in itself, you might say. Now, this is how I see it, and to see what you folks do. When I've had to make difficult decisions, especially ones that that are substantial decisions. Should I change my job? Should I move? Should I whatever? And what is the conflict? Why don't we know? Because love wants to do one thing and selfishness wants to do the other. Now it's hard to know which one is love and which one is selfishness. And so usually there's a battle that goes on between selfishness and love. I'm just picking those two adjectives. And sometimes you just have to make a guess. But if you can bear it out, what I find is when my mind or my, I would say it's a battle between heart and mind. When my mind relaxes, then the heart is there and it's obvious what to do. But it's hard to have the time in this world to let that battle run its course so that the mind eventually quiets and then love knows what to do. You know, and sometimes I just have to do what I think is the right thing or the good thing. That's plan B. To do the loving thing is plan A. To do the good thing or the right thing or the practical thing or sensible thing is plan B. In other words, the love in us and the intuition in us knows what to do. But to get to that is a battle. I mean, it's a battle at the heart level. I would say not so much here. It's down at the heart level and you're disturbed. And then eventually when the mind up here quiets down, then, you know, like one time, occasionally when I've been in Mandalay Hall, someone said, Erich, how do I know whether I should do this with this, whether this would be pleasing or that would be pleasing to Baba? And there are two things he would sometimes answer. He'd say, love would never ask that question. And because there are two, it means you're in those two elements are still battling themselves. You know, love and what I want are still battling themselves. Another thing he would say, someone once, I was very surprised, someone said, yeah, how do I know whether if I do this is pleasing to Baba or that would be pleasing to Baba? And he said, when you're trying to determine whether whether this is pleasing or that is pleasing to Baba, you can be sure that you have left Baba and come down to the level of the world. I mean, meaning that there's the worldly consideration and then there's love's consideration. But decision making is not easy. You know, I mean, one time Bao wanted me to move to India. And initially I said yes, but then I didn't get the green light within me. And I agonized for about a month and a half until you can imagine, because I would leave my job here at the center in Myrtle Beach and go there and live in India. And so it hit me in the most fundamental spot in myself. And I battled that. My mind and my heart went on and on and on for a month and a half. I agonized until eventually the mind relaxed and I knew that I should stay here. So, I don't know, Diane, do you have that kind of, I would be interested in how you guys make decisions. I'm just giving you my thing. Yeah.
Terry, he wants to know how we make decisions. I defer to Terry. She makes the decisions and I agree.
Oh, okay.
No, like that, I think they know it was a joke. I used to, I'll tell you what I do now, and a lot of times if I'm at all conflicted, I ask Baba's help.
Yeah.
But the way we've always made decisions as a couple and as parents is if one person felt really strongly about something, then that had to be heard.
Yeah.
And so it became a life, I guess the word math is big on me tonight, of what do you need to die on the sword for, or land on the sword for, and then move on. And but I definitely used to suffer from being having my foot in both sides, and I couldn't decide, and that took a lot of therapy and a lot of maturing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy thing. I mean, that's kind of knowing love and knowing yourself. And it's not, there's no easy like taking a weekend seminar and working it all out. It's a lifetime effort to be able to know what Baba wants or what love wants, you know. And then if you make like Jasima, you say, well, you make a decision, oh God, I probably shouldn't have done that. That's a learning experience. You learn, well, but it's what I found difficult is what is love really indicating and what is my selfishness. They sometimes what looks like selfish is actually what love wants. For example, someone may say, you know, can you help me move can you help me move? And you're very exhausted. And it seems like love would say yes, and selfishness would say no. But actually, love may be saying, no, this isn't good for you. You are too exhausted to be volunteering for something like that. So it's very, it's not always, I've not found it clear. I have to kind of sit on things for sometimes a few days to see what is indicated until that, yeah. And like I say, sometimes the thing that I thought was selfish was actually the loving thing to do. I don't know if Jasima, does that,
Yeah, it does.
it gives you a little,
What I do is I actually don't decide and procrastinate, and sometimes at last moment I have to do something. I take some decision. Sometimes it turns out good, but sometimes I regret that why I didn't.
yeah.
But I procrastinate a lot, like for days and days and days until it is up to the neck.
Yeah. And then you have to do the right thing or a good thing, but you don't know what the loving thing is. Yeah, no, I know that too. So David, what about your decision making?
Oh God, I hate making decisions, truthfully.
What's that?
And so I do have a system. I said I hate making decisions actually, but I always have to make them. And so I often try to eliminate, if there's more than two, I'll at least eliminate one thing. I try to just make the question simpler. But I agonize over it, Jeff. Decisions.
Yeah. And it's part of the spiritual, what can I say, spiritual growth. Yeah. What about you, Jake? I mean, see, especially you have kids like Jake has, or you have 5 girls. You have decisions to make that are not just simple and straightforward.
No, I have to use my feelings in terms
Yeah.
of what feels good. Like what feels, I mean, you bring up the point, there's the loving thing to do, but then at the same time, I have, like, my daughter goes and cries and is having just a meltdown about something, and I have to kind of make the decision, do I go and intervene, or is the loving thing to let her have her meltdown?
Yeah.
And give her that space, and it's not always easy to know, because there's multiple layers of feelings, and I feel like I have to kind of work with getting down to the simplest feeling.
Yeah.
If it makes any sense. The puffier and the fluffier the feeling, I feel like less accurate of a choice to make.
Yeah, say that again. The what? The fluffier?
The puffier and fluffier, yeah, of a feeling, because it's more I think I would say like the feeling would be becoming more idealized. Like if I'm the perfect loving dad, then I'm gonna go and solve my daughter's problem for her, whatever she's crying about or whatever she's having a meltdown about, and as a possible example, and that might be the very idealized thing where she really just might need to have the meltdown and be in that space for a little bit. And not that I can't be with her, but not to solve it for her or not try to interrupt it or prevent her from going through it.
Yeah.
As an example. So the fluffy feeling of, oh, I'm a good dad, I'm going to be the hero, is not always the right, is not always the right choice. The simpler feeling is to just love her, let her be in it and be with it. And it's not always easy to know the fluffy feelings for me from the simpler feelings. But that's what I try to do, is find the simpler feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you really try your best, then you don't feel guilty if you kind of miss things, because you did give it your your best to try to come up with the decision that in the moment seemed like the right direction to go. Oh, see, Elizabeth. Yeah. Well, before we
Bye,
go,
everybody.
I guess we're getting close to 12 o'clock. Priya, what about you? Do you just some of the Baba people take chits, 2 notes, and one is to go to this college, one is to go to that college, and they put the 2 chits before Baba's photograph, and then they go over and they pick it. I mean, that works for some people. I've never I haven't been attracted to that method. I'd rather suffer and come to a organic sort of decision, you might say. What do you do, Priya? Do you just flip a coin or what?
No, pretty much like you. I sort of sit with it for some time. And if there's fear coming in, then I definitely know that mind is at play.
Uh-huh, good, yeah.
So then I sit with Baba, and then it's just a leap of faith. I go ahead and I do it.
Yeah.
And
so, and you, I mean, even making a decision of moving from Delhi to Goa, that must have been a hurricane running through you to make that decision.
It was a very big decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents are old. My father has Alzheimer's. I was the primary caregiver for 3 years. There was a lot of guilt, with the intent of moving.
Yeah.
But I just needed it, it was like, and it's not that I needed to be away from them. I think I just needed some time alone.
Yeah.
And it didn't even come like that. It just came like I was really feeling the need to spend some time with Baba. And like I said, that all I told Baba was that please bring me closer to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that felt good.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's yeah. It's amazing all these different aspects that we have to struggle with that bring us closer. Let's see.
I'm going to bid you adieu, y'all.
Yeah.
Have a great
Okay.
night.
Yeah. I'm going to go soon. If there's any last minute things, anybody?
Night, Diane.
Yeah. Jake, it's probably your bedtime. You gotta.
Oh, yes.
You gotta teach tomorrow.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Here's the worst thing about Zoom. Here's the best thing about Zoom. I get to connect with Baba lovers, and we get to do stuff like this. The worst thing about Zoom is when you have a foot of snow coming down around your house.
Oh, that's right.
You'll have to go to school the next day because everybody's just going to Zoom in.
Yeah.
Awful, Awful. Totally ruins the fun of having a foot of snow.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Good
See
job.
you, Jake. See you guys.
Good night.
Okay, Jai
Yeah.
Baba.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Marinaz, did this make any sense to you, Marinaz?
Absolutely. That was wonderful, Jeff. Thank you.
We got to find from Marinaz though what it was like, how your father was. I mean, how he.
Can we
all the-
talk some other time?
Yeah, not now, but sometime it would be really nice what you observed in your father, how he
Absolutely.
lived.
Mm.
See, her father was one of the Prem Ashram boys, so, and it would be great to, to hear
Yes.
anything that you can remember. All because these are great lovers of God, and they have certain ways that they do things that can be very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And next time I will also tell about Guru Nanak, which
Okay.
someone wanted, and Sikhs, how the Sikhs were made or.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jay, be sure to be there so we can kind of point to, what he looked like.
Yeah, I used to think if I hadn't discovered Bob, I would definitely have become a Sikh. So I guess that would be good to hear about.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, Jeff, this is me and Moni.
Oh, beautiful.
1995.
Lovely. Oh boy.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how beautiful, absolutely beautiful this lady was.
Yeah.
She was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Truly.
And the lightness of her, the kind of purity and lightness just emanating from her.
Yeah. And amazing that that just you see me smiling here. I don't know how I was able to stop my tears, but even right now when I remember that I just all the time, when I was close to her, I was just crying. I don't know. I would get so emotional.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. She was truly beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Just they're some of the greatest souls on earth, and and yet they were so deeply, almost like divinely human, deeply human.
Yes.
What a beautiful and we can do that. We can be that. That's with Baba's help, that's within our reach to be that way. There were great examples of how to be fun-loving, natural, great sense of humor, serious, empathetic, so interested. The Mandali took an interest in our lives, not just on each trip, your whole life, how you're doing with Baba. They took a personal interest in hundreds of us, and the family and your kids and your marriage. They might send a letter to, congratulate you on your marriage. They did all of those things that in some ways are a little bit lost to this world today. I mean, they were the prime, embodiments of that wholesome family love. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
so I
Okay.
guess we can
Time to go.
time to go.
Time to leave.
Nasreen, wonderful. Sham. So we'll get
Okay.
share us a little bit of Guru Nanak. Yeah.
Yes, next time, yes.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay.
Okay.
See you guys.
Yes, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Baba.
Thank
Avtar Meher Baba ki.
you.
Ah.